Hello, you're listening to Sending the Experts with Georgina Durrant. This podcast is all about teaching and supporting children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities, SEND. My name is Georgina Durrant. I'm the host of this podcast brought to you by Twinkle SEND. As a former teacher and Senko myself, I wanted to create a platform to share some of the amazing things that my guests are doing to support learners with SEND. So whether you're listening on your commute, tuning in whilst walking your dog, or curled up on the sofa with a nice cup of coffee, thank you so much for joining us. In this episode, I'm really excited to chat to Nikki Saunders. Nikki, you might remember, was a guest right at the start of the podcast. She is author of the original Eddie series books. Nikki was born in Suffolk. She's got 2 children and she's worked in special education. And Nikki's son was diagnosed autistic, and she found there was a real lack of inclusion on the bookshelves. And after scribbling social stories for different situations, she used her creative eye and went on to publish My Awesome Autism for her son. And it was such a success that she wanted to share this with other children and families worldwide and normalise these sort of conversations everywhere. And she received so many, I've seen them on social media, these beautiful, heartwarming comments and messages in receipt of her books, and they're just beautiful. And yeah, her books are created for children and they're absolutely fantastic. She's got a whole range of them. And she's back on to announce some big news, but I'll hold the suspense and we'll tell people in a minute. Hi, Nikki, how are you?
Hi, I am very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So before you announce your big news, can you firstly, I've given a little overview about what your books are, but not all of our listeners will have listened to the whole back catalogue of episodes on the podcast, although I would invite them to do so. But can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your books, because I've only mentioned one of them and I know there's a whole range of them, and why you wrote them, that sort of thing, please?
Of course, you described me very well anyway. So I'm Nikki. I'm a mum to 2 lovely boys, Tyler and Toby, and author of the Eddie series books. Now, my son was diagnosed when he was 3. At the age of 9, he wanted to explore his diagnosis more, and in a visual way as well. So we searched the bookshops, and I was up against comments such as, we don't stock that sort of book. And at a later date, I know, I think someone said to me to search in the self-help section, and I was just really disappointed for my son and other people, having to hear that.
Yeah.
So I went home and wrote my own for him anyway. And then he loved it so much. It was amazing. He corrected my grammar and laughed at my sick men. He's got the best sense of humour. And yeah, I decided to publish it. And after that, parents asked me for one on siblings. So I have my friend Eddie, and my children went on a further journey. So I've got, goodness me, we did Welcome Back Eddie after lockdown.
Yes, I remember that.
And for my youngest, we did I'm Going to School, a little transition workbook. In lockdown, we kept super busy with Eddie's Book of Idioms. Another book, learning about mistakes and how that's okay. We all make them, just, finding the humour in it in a visual way. And the series has just grew, and I've loved every minute of it, really.
Oh, and were they all sort of based on like problems your son faced then? Were they like, you talk about the idioms, was it like he was struggling with idioms and not really getting them, so you thought, oh, let's make a book about it and help him?
Yeah, and I think he was in year 5 at the time, and they were learning about idioms. So he would come home and tell me some, would laugh, but there was some where he said, "What does that mean?" So I just created the book, and his ideas in there, so I feel like his voice is being heard, and we just had so much fun doing them. My little one, the youngest, he just found it hilarious. And I think activity in lockdown was just really lovely for all of us. So the series is very, very special to us.
Yeah.
And we've also got Eddie's Busy Christmas, which is great. But obviously that's quite a difficult one because you're trying to cover so much. Christmas overwhelm is massive, isn't it? So that's me and the series, and it's been amazing, absolutely amazing journey, which I didn't ever expect to set out to do.
I think that's why it's so lovely, and I think that's why you come across so well, Nikki, as well, is because it's so humble. It's just like it literally sounds like you've just done these with your children and then it's just become into a bigger thing than you expected, and it's just so lovely. It's really, really nice. And last time when you were on the podcast, people might remember I was sort of pushing you. I was being a bit cheeky because I knew a little bit, but I wasn't allowed to know very much. And I was trying to push you to find out what was the next stage with your books. But you can actually tell us now. So what is this exciting news? What's been going on since you last came on the podcast?
Oh my goodness, it's so exciting. So you did push me, and I really wanted to say that you can't these things, it's just how it goes. So obviously when I created my Awesome Autism, I created a character, and that character he looked like my son. We called him Eddie because that's my son's great grandfather. That's his name, sorry. And when he passed away a couple of days after my son was born, it's just a way of us keeping that lovely close connection. Eddie, our character, looks like Ty. He's got the beautiful blonde hair and his amazing dark eyes. He's even got his scooter. So that character, I thought it would just be amazing if he could be on the biggest visual aid. A screen is fantastic these days. We can use it so positively for learning. So yeah, I decided that it should be on TV one day, somewhere along the journey. And Eddie has his own TV show out this autumn, called Ready Eddie Go, and it's 26 7-minute episodes, and they are just incredible. I can't wait for everyone to see them. It's just so exciting, and it's even got the dog is called Scout, and our dog is called Scout. There's so much authenticity in this. It's just brilliant.
Oh wow, so a TV series, it's absolutely fantastic. So exciting. So who's the programme for? Is it predominantly for autistic kids, or is it for everybody, so that everyone understands problems that autistic children might face, or problems that anybody could face? Who's it for?
Exactly, it is for everyone. Mm-hmm. So obviously it's child-centred because that's the aim of our project completely, and that's the reality of it as well, authentically. So it's for autistic children and it's never for a child to follow like a social story or a primer to comply ever. It is purely for the child to have as many goes as they want and to fulfil their wishes as they grow. So it's very holistic in that sense. There's a narrator that helps Eddie through it because Eddie doesn't always understand some of the language. He needs it explained to him. And also he does have some difficulties now and again regulating his emotions, and we've normalised all of that, and it's okay to feel whatever you do. So we have a trusty narrator to help Eddie through it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And
so
hopefully,
sorry, you go.
Sorry. And hopefully, it can help siblings and friends learn how we can help our friends who are autistic. Although I do believe that they're living in this life anyway. Children, they just understand each other so well. Yeah. So it's about representation really on TV, and it is for everyone. It's so funny as well. I can't wait for people to see it, and it's so entertaining. It is just, I hope everybody just loves it.
Oh, it sounds brilliant, and I genuinely can't wait to. I've watched a clip, and we're going to watch a clip in a minute. But yeah, I am genuinely really excited. I've been telling my own kids and doing a bit of like a boast. I know Nikki Saunders, and that she's got a TV program and it's coming out on Sky. So yeah, they're really really excited. But so basically, each of the episodes, I'm right in saying they're social stories in a sense, aren't they? They're sort of going through a situation that a child might find difficult. Any child might find difficult, perhaps more so some autistic children. So things like going to the barbers and getting the haircut. And then, am I right that at the start, the narrator sort of helps them go through, prepare Eddie for the situation before he goes off and does it? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, perfect. Well done.
Thank you. My research has worked.
Amazing. So Eddie's fine. He's autistic. He's kind, clever. He's adorable, actually. But equally, such a super imaginative little boy, and that's one of his strengths. That's his superpower. So actually, what's happening is throughout the episode, it's imagined, and at the end, Mum or Dad says, "Eddie, time to go," and you might recognise my voice because I'm Mum in the series. I am. And it's broken down into small sections, 5 sections, just so that at the start zone, we call it, that's where Eddie learns what's on his calendar today, what he's doing today, and he talks about his emotions, or the narrator might prompt how he might be feeling or what he might expect. So he goes through every section, feeling different emotions. You can see him, how he interacts with his friends, or how he might resist something. And Eddie is always understood. I feel like the narrator is meeting his needs. So that's what makes me really happy about this, because he's able to try this new experience, but he's also told that he doesn't have to go any further if he doesn't want to. It's all about his pace. So
and really sort of neuro-affirming then. It's not like a social situation where we're trying to change the way a child is, not trying to make a neurodivergent child neurotypical. You're just trying to give them little help if they need it with some situations, because there are autistic children obviously who want to find it easier to go to the barbers perhaps, or want to find it easier to go then, and are after some skills and some support from parents or teachers in those situations. So sort of helping them that way.
Yeah, and I think sometimes they want to know what to expect as well. It's all very well, it's easy for us parents, we're so busy, we can say, right, we're going here today, we're doing, we're going to the barbers and you'll see this and you'll see that. But obviously our children need to see these visually. Well, what do they do? What are they for? Be specific, tell me. And if we can give them as much information as possible, we're opening up that opportunity for them to make that choice, really.
Makes it so much easier for them. They can preempt what's going to happen and sort of go through it like Eddie does in the TV series. They can go through it in their imagination and work out what it's going to be like, and then when they do it in real life, it's easier to do. In the actual TV program, does it stop when it's like, when you say ready, Eddie, go? Is that when it stops, or do you see him do the actual thing, if you see what I mean? Does he actually, or is it all just imaginative?
So it's, the whole thing's imagined, and right at the end, Eddie's in the end zone with his scooter and he's dancing on disco lights, which is something that my son used to do when he was a toddler. He used to love jumping on disco lights. It's such a fun activity. So, there's so many lovely touches in there. And then the parent calls him, his parents call him, and then you see him kind of, I don't know, you just see him built with so much confidence to just know what to expect. It's different, but you don't see the actual scenario. You just see the imagined one.
I love that. I was just thinking as well, it's going to be so helpful for parents as well, because it might be really, if your child finds some situations difficult, like going to the barbers or going to the supermarket or going to the dentist or whatever, watching somebody else going through the situation with this child on TV and explaining, it's like giving parents a strategy almost. You're sort of helping them and making parents not feel alone, because there must be a lot of parents sat at home thinking, why does my child find it so difficult to do this when other children might not? Parents do compare all the time, don't they? It's just natural. I suppose you're giving them strategies and then reassurance that it's okay, and this is what happens sometimes, and this is how you deal with it.
Absolutely. And I think, when my son was younger, I could have done with this. I'd have loved this, because I would have learned so much from it too. There's so many strategies in there that we've had to learn, and not all in one go like this, like hair washing. I can remember feeling like I was the only parent that might have been struggling with that. And like you say, you can't feel alone. I do think it connects people a little bit more.
Because and maybe opens up a few more conversations, because I think a lot of these things, I bet you feel quite isolated as a parent and not wanting to perhaps talk about it if you don't think anybody else is struggling with that at home. Like the hair washing, for example, you might not want to, like when you're seeing other mums in the school gates or at parent groups or whatever, might not want to be like, oh, are you finding it tricky washing hair? Because they might be like, well, no. And then you'd feel the sort of shame, or even sort of to your partner or to grandparents, just to explain that it is quite normal for this to happen and for children to find these things difficult. And having it on TV is like, it just normalize it and opens up more conversations. Like you say, I think it's going to be brilliant. You're going to help so many people, genuinely, aren't you? Like so many kids and families.
I really hope so. And even, just our paediatrician, he helped us with hair washing, and he said, count down from 5 or 10, just so that he knows when it's going to end. And the change that made, obviously you have to do it repetitively, over time, was just amazing. And actually, when my son was little, he is very, very clever. And he used to say, bye-bye bath time story, then bedtime. And actually, this is the only episode where Eddie tries to get to the end zone halfway through. It's really funny, and I just love the humour in it.
Oh, and do your kids recognise the little bits in there that are personal to your family as well? So like, like little bits like, yeah, that's what I did, or oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, I think because they've been involved in it so much, and they know so much about the episodes, and I've talked to them about what we've gone over so much, and my eldest has been on some of the meetings as well.
Oh, has he? Wow, so he's been involved in like production and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Great work experience.
Yeah, and he's there to correct me, it's just been, it's been fascinating. It really has.
So what other topics does it cover then? You don't need to tell me all 20, whatever it was, episodes, but I mentioned barbers, and I kept mentioning barbers because that was stuck in my head. But what other topics do you cover?
I mean, there are so many. It's 26, but obviously the list is absolutely endless. So we've got the birthday party.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Hear my boys in there singing happy birthday. It's so cute. They love it. You've got washing hair, obviously. You've got the cinema, seaside, doctors, dentist, dressing up, board games, which is all about winning and losing. And painting, and it's one of my favourites because it's all about, there's no mistakes, and Eddie finds a mistake and turns it into this beautiful opportunity, and his friends are involved trying to help him. And at the end, it's lovely. And at the end, there's this really amazing scene that the guys have done, and all of the children's work is lined up, and you can see just their little backs, all lined up in a row, looking at their work, and the narrator explains how everyone's work is unique, it's different, and it's beautiful. And it's just a really amazing message in that one. I just love it.
That's really nice, because it's not just about painting as well, is it? It's kind of that covers sort of making mistakes in general, I suppose, isn't it? And making mistakes in any sort of work you're doing, or anything you're writing or drawing or whatever. That's quite nice.
Lovely. It's like this little orange blob that goes on the paper, and he goes, orange doesn't go there, and he's devastated because that's not what he had in his mind.
Yeah.
His friend gives him an idea of what it could be, and then his other friend Nina gives him an idea of what it can be, and then he finds an idea and flips the paper and makes it into part of his interest, which is space. He absolutely loves space, and it's just it's amazing. I'm really, really pleased.
That's such a lovely message as well, isn't it? Like that when curveballs are thrown in your path, sort of thing, you can talk to other people or think of your own ideas of how you're going to change the narrative, what's going to happen, and embrace it. That's lovely.
Yeah, and I think the influence his friends have on him are really positive.
Yeah,
because their characters they're pretty empowering, actually. I mean, Nina's very she's quite assertive. She's brilliant, and his other friend Akil, he's such a smart, clever boy, and he's always there to help Eddie. So I just think they represent children in a lovely way.
Yeah, which a lot of children, like you said at the start, really are. It's more grown-ups that need the help, isn't it? They're actually very good at stuff like that. Quite. Are the other characters based on anyone you know, or are they just generic children?
Yeah, they're not based on anyone I know personally, but obviously they're real people, and I can definitely relate each one of them to someone I know. I think every child has a Nina friend and a kid. So it's really lovely.
That's lovely for children to see, like, brilliant ways of supporting their friends as well. It's another like positive message for them to see that, isn't it? And like good role models for them, which is lovely to see on the screen.
Exactly.
So how do you think it will help autistic young people then? How do you reckon your programme, I think we've talked about it a little bit, but how do you think it's going to help them?
I honestly think, initially, I think they'll find it entertaining and fun. And I just love the fact that, wherever they watch this, they can watch it on repeat and at their own pace. There is no pressure in this, and you can feel it as soon as you watch it. And I think that there's as the episode is broken down into 5 sections, there is a visual card for each one. Oh, wow. So it really does help children even more visually understand what's happening in each section. But I think it will really help support them in new situations and hopefully environments too.
Yeah, and that sounds brilliant. And I like the idea that it has the same sort of routine, if you like, for each
Yeah,
episode. I presume that's been done purposefully as well, given the
it
same
has.
structure each time, because not everybody, obviously, but lots of autistic children, do,
Yep.
in my experience, thrive when there's structure and routine and repetition of that same structure.
Yeah, it is that reliable structure,
Yeah,
and it's the same, like you say, it's consistent, and I think consistency makes children feel safe
yeah,
in
it does.
when they're navigating something new and unknown that must feel so scary to them. So we wanted to give it as much structure and consistency as possible.
Oh, I'm so excited. I hope people who are watching this and listening are feeling just as excited as me. So how did it all happen? Because like I know you said like you were just thinking you'd done the books and then you were like, oh, I think it should be on TV, but like a lot of people think they should be on TV and it doesn't happen. So how did that go from Nikki thinking, oh, I think this would make a brilliant TV program, to actually physically being on TV? How did you do it?
Well, I think initially that determination was ignited the moment that lady said to me, "We don't stock that sort of book."
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't just stop in the bookshop. That goes everywhere, doesn't it? Through telly, everywhere. And I think that's stayed with me. So I did lots of research, and I was very determined. And I reached out to a company, and actually they had the same values as I did, and their company is inclusive, which means the world to me and to them, you know, and they're able to, you know, if you speak to someone who's either worked in a SEND school or they have an autistic child in their family, you kind of just know, and
Yeah.
they did. So it was lovely to hear their stories. They understood mine, and they just loved Eddie. And we decided to go for it. And before you know it, we were in front of broadcasters, which is crazy. I've never done anything like that in my life. But yeah, so we got a yes in the end, and we were just all so excited. And honestly, it's got the right people behind this. You've got autistic writers, neurodiverse staff. Eddie is voiced by an amazing, talented little boy called Grayson, who is autistic and ADHD. It's wonderful.
I love
So
that.
that's how it came around.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And it just goes to show your determination as well, Nikki. That's wonderful that it's like, yeah. I wonder if that lady who was in that bookshop who said that comment realizes what then happened afterwards.
Probably not.
She probably doesn't even remember
Probably
saying
not.
it. But can
Yeah.
you, yeah.
And it wasn't by any fault of hers. I could see that. It was just, there's nothing out there in our environment to tell you otherwise. And I never thought I'll be the person to do that. It just pushed me even further. But yeah, it's a very, very exciting journey.
So we're going to share a little clip. Sky Kids have let us do this, haven't they, Nikki?
They
Share a little clip of the TV programme. Now, if you're listening on the podcast and not watching on YouTube, obviously you'll just be able to hear it because I can't produce magic. But I would suggest you going over to YouTube, to the YouTube channel. It's Sending the Experts on YouTube. If you have a look on there, you'll be able to watch this little clip as well. So before I play the clip, can you just give us a bit of context? It's only a very short clip. What is this episode about, and what's going to happen?
Okay, so this is a short clip, and this is of Eddie trying new foods. Now, Eddie's trying broccoli here, and we have had to kind of make it so that he goes through all of the stages and he does actually try the food at the end. Now, we know that that's definitely not going to happen straight away, which is why we have rewarded every stage, such as looking, touching, with its own star, just to show that that's an amazing achievement. Well done. You can leave the table, it's fine.
Yeah.
But obviously we've had to show this so that the child knows what to expect at the end. How do you feel? What might it look like? So Eddie's kind of guiding them as such. So it's really funny because initially Eddie's like, well, I don't have to try new food. I like my peas. I like this. I like that. But it's really good. And, you know, he's guided through it so gently, and it's almost like a computer game. So he's got his tick and his cross. And she says, you know, do you want to carry on or do you want to leave it there? And he chooses to carry on. So that just visually emphasises to the children that there is no pressure around food. And if you want to, here we go. We can go to the next stage and show you what's there, or you can opt out, and that's fine. Well done for even saying yes initially, because what child gets down from the table and goes, yes, I loved that cabbage or broccoli? Hopefully they don't know. But we wanted to be authentic here, because, you know, like I said, my son would go, yay, I did it, or yay, I ate it. So he would kind of acknowledge to me, I did that, I achieved that, that's massive to me.
Yeah.
And it is broken down into small sections, because eating is a huge process. It uses all of your senses, doesn't it? Looking and touching are all part of eating. So just goes back to what we were advised by paediatricians and everything when he was younger, and it's just, it's brilliant. And I really hope, it doesn't have to be broccoli, obviously, but I hope
you have all these children across the UK eating broccoli as a result of this, Nikki.
I just swap that for something else. No, and if not, I just hope it's entertaining, because his imagination makes it really funny in this one as well.
Yeah, right, we're going to play it and we can just watch it. So here you go.
First, you'll take a good look at the broccoli. What colour is it?
Green! That's my favourite colour. Look, my peas are green too. And I really like those.
That's promising. What about shape?
This bit's a rectangle, then it goes all fizzy-wizzy.
Does it remind you of anything?
A big tree.
And how about size? Is it big, small, or in the middle?
In the middle.
He'd be shorter without the hair.
I'm finished looking.
Well done, Eddie. What an achievement. You can get down from the table if you like. Or you can explore the broccoli a bit more. What do you think?
Let's keep going.
Great.
Oh, it's brilliant. The characters Eddie just looks so fantastic, doesn't he?
He is lovely, and the animation is just so beautiful itself.
It's very cool. It really is. I love how he goes, no, let's give it a try. Like when he gets the option at the end, like if you want to keep going, or do you want to keep going, or do you want to stop? And he's like, no, let's keep going. It's just it's how a kid would do it as well. It's not exactly. It feels very authentic. It feels very much like how children are, and like them being like, I'm going to brace it, or nah, I'm done. I love that.
He's in the driving seat. He's in control. So
yes,
I think that's why he does so well.
Yeah, and I think again another really useful one for parents or teachers who are supporting children who are struggling with eating different foods, perhaps. That a useful one for them to watch and see that it is such a gradual process, that it's not something like you say that's you're not just suddenly going to be able to, not every time, go from not wanting to eat it to suddenly eating it, but these little stages need to be rewarded and need to be praised for they're having a go and having and if they don't want to, then they don't want to. I just think that's a lovely message. No pressure. Nice.
It's lovely. And I think every new experience or new food a child tries, it helps to build new pathways in the brain, which helps them for when they're older. So I just hope it's helpful. That's the main thing.
And what would you say if there's like a parent who is watching that and thinking, well, even if I try that, I don't think my child will eat the food? Would you say, does it matter?
Not at all. It really doesn't. I think if it's in their environment and they can tolerate it, even on a different table to start with, and then eventually tolerate it on their table, then that's amazing, and that is going to help them just navigate through different places as they get older. It's not all about putting it in your mouth all of the time. It's a whole sensory experience.
Yeah. No, brilliant. So what are your hopes then? I think we've spoken a little bit about your hopes in general for Ready Eddie Go. Is it going to become, are we going to Hollywood, Nikki? Well, what are your hopes for it?
Honestly, my hopes for it are for children to feel they can relate to Eddie and to each other more. That their traits and characteristics are more common than what they might feel or think. That they feel valued, special and included, and other people, this could this is an eye-opener for them, and actually it just brings so much understanding. So I think for me, I just want it to work so that children feel happy and supported. That's the only thing, that's the main thing I want for this.
Yeah.
So it's not about anything else, but for the children to feel happy, supported, understood and included. There you go.
Oh, what a beautiful answer. That's so lovely. That just basically you went into completely change society and make everybody inclusive. Every child feel which it should be. So I think that's, why not aim for that? That's absolutely brilliant. And what do your boys think about it? Do they love it, Nikki?
Oh my goodness, they love it so much from day one, and from going to London to do some voiceovers and joining in, because obviously, Tyler can't be Eddie because as he's becoming a teenager, his voice is changing. And he doesn't,
of course.
Fine. However, he is included and he understands that, why and what bits he can and can't do. Him and his brother have had great fun. But I showed him a clip yesterday, actually, and it was the very latest updated sparkly clip that I'd seen, and he was beaming from ear to ear, just so proud, so excited, and desperate for it to come out. Honestly, they are both so proud. And I think because my youngest, my I'm going to school book was mainly for him, he's super excited as well. So no, honestly, I wish I could video them and show everyone their faces when they watch this, but obviously my eldest is like, no mum,
it's far too cool for this.
On my videos, I'm like, okay, that's fine.
But we can imagine, can't we? So the other bit, you mentioned the narrator quite a bit. We're sketched around who's actually narrating it then, Nikki, because this is, I believe, a big thing.
How have I not said that yet?
I know, you've mentioned the narrator, and I've been like, oh, are you going to tell us who?
Yeah, sorry. It's narrated by the lovely Jodie Whittaker.
Wow.
She is really behind this. She's perfect for this. I think her voice is so joyful. She's so kind and empathetic. She's just perfect. And I met her and she's such a lovely lady.
Oh, that's amazing. And most important question, where can people watch it and when? Because when this comes out, it will actually be out. So people listening or watching this are going to be thinking, right, I need to go and watch this. So where do they go?
Okay. So as far as I'm aware, autumn time. Mm-hmm. So October-y time. October time. Not October-y time.
October-y time. I like October-y time. When the October berries come out.
It doesn't even exist. So
I'm keeping this in.
Sorry. So it'll be out October time on Sky Kids, and I do believe they have their own YouTube channel as well.
Oh, cool.
So check that in case.
Yeah. Brilliant. And we've said how many episodes are. What is your favourite episode, though?
Oh, good question. I love so many of them. Do you know what? I think it's really hard to choose one. You've got Grandpa visiting, which is the sweetest little episode, because obviously it's hard for Eddie to have visitors. If they're unexpected, he needs to know when they're coming. He doesn't like them leaving. But I think possibly painting.
Yeah.
I just think it's really lovely. And obviously my children, they've always loved doing arts and crafts at home, and that's been our way of learning that mistakes are okay. So I think that one's special to us.
Yeah.
So that's possibly why. But when you watch them, it's really hard to pick one because some are just so funny, and others are just really sweet. And they've all got lovely messages behind each one. So I'll be interested to hear people's feedback on which one they love most.
Yes, absolutely. And talking more generally then, why is it so important to have TV programmes like this and books like yours with autistic characters in it?
Because I feel they've been overlooked for a very long time. It doesn't TV and books haven't always reflected real life. Everyone should be included, and everyone deserves to be included. So I do think TV is slowly improving. It's not consistent at the moment, but Yeah, and equally, I do think autistic and neurodiverse people in the workplace and in employment have been overlooked as well.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why, because the skills and the opportunities they can bring you is incredible. So
Yeah.
I do think it starts behind the scenes as well. But yeah, it's so important. Everyone deserves to feel represented.
Wonderful. And there's a lot of pressure to get that representation right, isn't there? A
Yeah.
huge amount of pressure. I imagine you're feeling it, and you don't need to be nervous because it's brilliant. But I imagine there would have been some nerves when you're creating it, that you've got to get it right for these children to make sure that you're representing them correctly. Was it something that worried you, and are you happy with how it turned out?
I don't think it did really, because it's authentic.
Yeah.
Now, I think, of course, making any show or any book that you're creating, you desperately want to get it right for who it's for the children. That, we just want to get everything just so perfect for them that they can get the best from it, and learn and grow. So, yeah, I think because it's authentic and it's based on real people, and we have autistic writers and neurodiverse staff behind the scenes, that there's just so many people involved. It's a collaborative thing that you can't go wrong when it's based on real life things, really. I mean, we've had our life kind of unpicked every week in the making of this. It's just been incredible. So people do really care and they listen, and I think that's how we got here.
Yeah,
so,
and it sounds like it's the people you've chosen and have chosen when you've done the partnership with the people who've created Eddie. It's getting that right, I suppose, set the foundations for it to be able to represent children who are autistic correctly in a way. If you hadn't got the correct team, then it might not have done, but brilliant.
Exactly. Yeah.
And people are really keen to hear recommendations of TV shows that represent children and young people with SEND in general. Is there any other TV programs or any other books that you think have done this well? Maybe not necessarily for autistic children, or it could be, but SEND in general.
Yeah. I know there is A Kind of Spark, which is on, I think, the BBC, and she's 11, isn't she? She's autistic, and that's really interesting and also authentic. So the writer, I believe, is autistic.
Yes. Yeah.
And have you ever seen Disney's short film called Loop?
No, I need to watch this.
If you can find it, it's amazing. It's only a short clip, and it's about two teenagers, I think, a girl and a boy, and they're on this lake in a canoe, and the little girl is non-speaking, and at first he doesn't quite understand her, but as they go on this journey, he just learns to communicate with her, and he listens with his eyes, basically, and he kind of looks at her and understands what she needs, and it is really good.
Oh,
So
that's brilliant. I'm going to look that one up myself.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And lastly, can you just give us some links on where to find you on? It always sounds dodgy when I say where to find you, but on social media and your books. And we've spoken about how to find Ready Eddie Go, but where can they find your books and like links, etc.? I'll put them in the show notes as well as any other relevant resources that we've got too.
Sure. So I am at NR Saunders Books on all of my social media. And Ready to Go is at Ready to Go, and Instagram is Ready to Go TV. Yeah. However, the website, which will be up by the time this is out, and it's incredible actually, it's really good, with links to everything, that will be www.readytogo.com.
Brilliant. Oh, that's nice and simple, and I love your consistency across social media. That's brilliant.
Oh yeah, exactly. Then you know where you're at then, don't you? But yeah, everything's out there, and it'll be available when this is out, really. So I'm very excited. I just hope everybody just loves it.
And I'm sure they will. And thank you so much for coming on here, Nikki. You've been an absolute brilliant guest as always. And it's lovely to have people come back. It's nice to have had the podcast long enough that we've got returning guests, that life has changed and things have happened and they can come back and tell us stuff.
Finally answer your questions now. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I love having Nikki on the podcast. Isn't it brilliant what she's achieved? Obviously go and check out her TV programme on Sky Kids. I've also put links to her first podcast episode with us for you to listen to if you've not already done so, and there's also links in the show notes below to some specific resources that were actually created with Nikki on the Twinkle website. So these include sensory and emotional awareness activities, explaining autism to friends, etc. There's loads of brilliant resources, so do go and have a look at them. And thanks again for listening to Send In the Experts with me, Georgina Durrant. See you next time.